Welcome to the MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Brent Hyde. Taking a look at tonight's 14-game slate on FanDuel and DraftKings. No real weather concerns, a little bit of rain in Minnesota, but looking like a pretty windy night here in some of these places. We get wind in Wrigley again, which we talked about yesterday, and that game ended up being, 5 runs?
Yeah, I think it ended up being like 3-2. So I was really close on my prediction. Hopefully tonight it's the same thing because I actually kind of like both pitchers. Depending on where you're looking at, they're really really cheap. But we'll obviously get to that game. It should be an interesting night though. There's a lot of aces on the mound and some interesting stacks to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of looking through, there's a lot of injuries to talk about as well, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it feels like NBA season.
But maybe that's why we just did a second take, and I said, "Welcome to the NBA Slate Breakdown."
That's probably why.
Yeah. Let's dive in here. Pittsburgh, Washington. Max Scherzer taking on Chad Kuhl. Scherzer's obviously been dialed in this year. I definitely don't mind him here. It is a hefty price tag, 12-7 on DraftKings. There are some cheaper options, but I do feel like he is one of these safer options on the board here tonight.
I think so too. Obviously, he's extremely, extremely expensive. I mean, he's the highest priced pitcher on DraftKings, and I assume on FanDuel he is the highest priced pitcher there as well. But he just offers such a safe floor and strikeout upside in this spot. Like the Pirates, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. They're not a team that strikes out a ton if you just look at their overall numbers, but when you take them out of PNC Park, they actually do strike out a decent amount. And that has a decent amount of interest from the Scherzer side of things for me. Just looking at it, the Pirates this season against right-handed pitching on the road are striking out 27.7% of the time. So whenever you factor in Scherzer and his like 455,000% strikeout rate dating back to last season, you have a lot of potential for him to be the highest scoring option on the board. He's definitely the safest cash game option, and I think even at that price, he has a ton of GPP upside. So I absolutely love him here.
Yeah, I do too. And as far as fantasy production goes, like he's kind of been far and above some of these other aces so far this year.
He really has, and it stems a lot from his ability to just go deep into games. I mean, he has the ability to go 9 innings and throw like 100, exactly like right around 100 pitches and put up almost 50 fantasy points. Or you get the games where he goes like 7 and double-digit strikeouts. I mean, he has double-digit strikeouts in all but 2 of his outings this season. So it's just such a great spot for him, even against a Pittsburgh team that is generally disciplined at the plate.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in Pittsburgh bats here. Do you?
No, not really.
Washington side here, facing Chad Kuhl. I definitely don't mind some of the lefties. If Matt Adams cracks the lamp again, I will have some interest as a value first baseman. Just because Kuhl, still same kind of thing this year. Struggling with left-handed bats, 411, well, but 200 ISO allowed so far this year. The problem is just there's not a lot of options in this outside of like Harper and Adams that I'm really intrigued with.
Death, taxes, and lefties versus Chad Kuhl. It's pretty much a lock every single game that he's gonna get shelled by lefties. But even if you look at it back to last season, like 308 WOBA allowed to right-handed hitters, a 301 BABIP, a 33% hard contact. Like I think you can even stack the Nationals in this spot and get some exposure to the righties. Like he's a guy to both sides of the plate, relies heavily on sinkers. Like Ryan Zimmerman just mashes them. I mean, 21 at bats last season, 571 ISO. He's a decent right-hander to get in there. I don't even hate like Wilmer Defoe and some of these cheap options. Like even Matt Wieters is someone that I do have a little bit of interest in the spot. So I like them here. I don't know that they're going to be one of my top stacks, but they're definitely somewhere you can look at here.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, Trey Turner leading off is always in play.
For sure.
So this game here, you got Atlanta and New York. Noah Syndergaard take on Sean Newcomb. I don't mind both these arms here. Sean Newcomb's intriguing. This is a guy that pitched well last week against Cincinnati, and he kind of had that one rough inning. Votto got to him, I think, with a 3-run homer. There's definitely some upside here again with Newcomb.
There's a little bit of upside. The biggest issue continues to be walks. I mean, in his last 3 games, 3 walks, 4 walks. It kind of limits his upside if he's not able to control himself here. I mean, he was solid against the Mets last time out. I mean, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get the win to boost his numbers. But this is a Mets team still striking out 26% of the time against lefties. You obviously have some guys like Asdrubal Cabrera and Ahmed Rosario and Frazier and Wilmer Flores that do hit lefties pretty well. But I still think Newcomb, if you're looking to pay down at SP, like on SP2 sites, he's interesting. I think there's a couple guys that we're going to get to that I like even more than him, but he's a fine option.
Yeah, he is. And Syndergaard, I think he might be the odd man out for me here tonight. Had one of his poor starts, I guess you could call it, in terms of fantasy production against this Atlanta team. Only put up 15 DK points. I could kind of see something similar here where, he pitches well, but not fantasy well for the price. I don't mind him. I just kind of like other options a little bit more.
I like the price on him at 10-8 on DraftKings. That's pretty appealing, even in a matchup against the Braves. He's 10-6 on FanDuel. The biggest issue that I have with Syndergaard is if Newcomb does, kind of shut them down a little bit, and Syndergaard maybe gives up a run or two and strikes out like 8 hitters, he has to notch the win. And this Mets bullpen has been so freaking bad recently. Like he hasn't been able to notch a win in his last 3 outings because the Mets bullpen is freaking terrible. So it limits his upside a little bit. I still think he's tournament viable just because at that price, it's really tough to overlook a guy that has 30 plus fantasy point upside.
Yeah, and he's kind of in an island on his own. Like you go up, he's Verlander's 11-7, then next below him is Archer. So he's the only guy in that 10K range.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing on FanDuel. Like you have Verlander and Syndergaard pretty much the same price, and then everyone else is like 11K, and then you drop all the way down to 8,700. So he is kind of on an island in the spot.
Any bats that stand out here on both sides? Like I'm not really looking at Atlanta. I think there are a couple Mets guys that are a little bit interesting. Obviously like Asdrubal Cabrera still, he's hitting lefties even well this year, 370 WOBA, 192 ISO. The problem is everyone else has really been struggling.
Yeah, he would be kind of the guy that I really look at. I always like, Asdrubal Cabrera in just about any matchup, just a low strikeout guy, a little bit of pop, decent on-base stuff. So I think he's fine. Again, you can look at Ahmed Rosario, who's hitting lefties pretty darn well this season. It's still like almost about 60 plate appearance sample size now, but 352 WOBA, 211 ISO. He's always really cheap and towards the bottom of that order, so he tends to go overlooked.
Yeah, and obviously guys like Wilmer, Flores will be in the lineup. I think on a 14-game slate, though, I'm going to be looking for a little more than like platoon bats.
Probably, and on the Atlanta side of things, I mean, I'll never say no to Freddie Freeman as like a one-off. He does have some decent numbers against Syndergaard. If BVP is your thing, it's like a 556 average, 1 homer and 4 ribbies and 9 at-bats, and then Dan's base Swanson, 600 average, 5 at-bats, 1 RBI. So your BVP plays if you're looking to target those guys.
Yeah, man, Ozzie Albies turned on like 100-mile-per-hour fastball Syndergaard last time. These guys, not that I'm just saying that was, Ozzie Albies is on fire.
Yeah, he is.
Tampa Bay and Detroit. You got Matt Boyd take on Chris Archer. This lineup last night that came out was god awful, and it could be really bad again. No Leonis Martin was in the lineup. No Miguel Cabrera. God, they have 3 catchers in the lineup, I think.
Yeah, that game was so tilting because it entered the 9th inning. It was 0-0. Like nobody had done anything, and it was like, man, this is exactly what we thought it was going to be, right? And then you had like Brad Miller and CJ Cron homer in the 9th inning, and then like the Tigers, I think, put up a couple runs late in that 9th inning. But hopefully we get Martin and Candelario and Victor Martinez in this lineup against the Rays. Just looking at it, like I kind of want to target Archer with lefties here just because he has historically struggled against lefties, and it's been so much worse this season. I mean, if you look at it dating back to last year, 347 WOBA allowed, 42% hard contact, 1.43 homers per 9. I don't mind the lefties in the spot, but on the flip side, like I think you can maybe use Archer as a cheap SP option if you don't get like Martin and some of these big name bats in that lineup.
Yeah, I agree. It's the lineup is going to shift things again for me on how I feel about Archer. Like you said, if we get Candelario Martin up at the top of the lineup, it is a little bit more risky. But if we see guys like Hicks in there again, Goodrum, like it's going to be stuff that I'm not, I don't mind Archer at that price. Like DK, I think he's really viable at 9,200. I think 8,700 on FanDuel is a great GPP guy if you're looking to kind of fade those top guys.
Yeah, I agree there.
So Tampa Bay side of things here, I definitely don't mind some of the right-handed bats. Once again, CJ Cron's a guy that stands out, but Daniel Robertson continues to crush the ball, especially against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I'm not necessarily looking to stack against him just because I think people are going to look at it and be like, "Oh, Matt Boyd is a terrible pitcher," when the numbers probably don't say he is. I mean, he's only given like he gave up 4 earned against the Pirates, but it came out after that game that he was battling the flu. His 3 outings before that, he only gave up 1 earned, and that was against like the Indians, Baltimore, the Royals. So if you want to use some of these guys, CJ Cron, you mentioned excellent against right-handed or left-handed pitching with 277 ISO. Robertson, even someone like Wilson Ramos, if he's healthy and back in the lineup, I think you can roll them out if you're dying to. But I'm not really looking to stack too many of these bats.
No, I think it's just more one-off values here for me.
Yeah, and it's still really frustrating that CJ Cron and Brad Miller are both first base on DraftKings.
Yeah, but I mean, Cron just his price is like never going to move.
It's up to 3,900 now.
That's true. Still not crossing that 4K mark yet. I mean, they took Asdrubal Cabrera a whole month.
Yeah, I think he's been over it a couple times, but like for the most part, like he's staying like right under that 4K mark.
Yeah. Next one here, we got Philly and Miami. This game was played in Coors last night, apparently. That was something I did not see happening.
It might be in Coors again tonight with Zach Eflin taking the mound. And spoiler alert, the Marlins were one of my 3 stacks in my stacking article today, just because Zach Eflin is really that freaking bad.
Yeah, let's talk some Miami bats here first. I look at Eflin. I mean, over 200 ISO allowed last year to both sides of the plate, 381 goal allowed to lefties, 359 to righties. I like the options in here. There's a lot of Marlins value. I definitely don't mind the stack. I'll let you kind of dig into that a little more here.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. I got to find them in my notes here. It mostly starts. It stems from like Eflin is just so bad against both sides of the plate. Hard contact to lefties, 36.4%. Righties not as much, but still 1.63 homers per 9. Like this is a good spot for all of these Marlins bats. I love Justin Bour if he's back in the lineup. He was out last night because he's still battling some back spasms, but I think they were just kind of resting him a little bit more. He should be in the lineup today. 247 ISO against right-handed pitching dating back to last season. JT Realmuto, excellent spot. I love him if he's leading off. That's just going to be a huge boost for him if he's leading off. Starlin Castro is a guy that I really like here as well. And then anybody else, any value options like Cameron Maybin is dirt cheap, and I know he's been really, really, really bad this season. But against four-seam fastballs like Eflin's, he posted 410 xWOBA against him. So all these Marlins bats are in play here.
Yeah, they really are. Whatever lineup comes out, really cheap. And you mentioned Castro, 3K. Derek Dietrich is 2.8. So obviously, I mean, I think, with paying up for pitching, like you can definitely get some Marlins bats in there, and that's a really cheap stack to pair with an ace.
Yes, it is.
Philly's side of things here, Garcia is not that bad. So I'm not really looking to really load up on some of these Philly guys. Always some of the bats that do sneak in, like, Aaron Altherr is intriguing, but obviously Rhys Hoskins, just his numbers against lefties are insane. I don't know, you're probably going to see like Kingery in there. I don't mind some of these guys, but I'm not going to be surprised if they do kind of struggle a little bit.
I actually have interest in Garcia as a value SP option. I mean, on DraftKings, he's 4,900. Like, he can come out and put up like 15, 18 fantasy points and pay off that salary with ease. And this is a spot like this Phillies team. I know they put up a bunch of runs last night on Straley. They still struggle on the road. They still strike out a ton against lefties, 25%. It's one of those spots. Like, I know Rhys Hoskins is really, really, really scary in that lineup. And you do have a couple other guys that hit lefties pretty darn well, but like Garcia's been a really good pitcher for this team. And I feel like this is a spot where he can rack up some strikeouts and go fairly deep into this game and put up a solid outing.
Yeah, I mean, he's been over 15 DK points in each of the last 3 games. The pitch counts are finally moving up. He was kind of being stretched out. He's pitched over 90 pitches in each of the last 2 games. Weirdly, his worst start date coming against the Phillies this year, but I am definitely willing to go back and use him as an SP2. I do like that call.
Yeah, and he's on an extra day's rest, so that could end up actually helping him.
So, yeah, 4,900, nice bargain there.
For sure.
Milwaukee and Cincinnati. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more runs last night, but some of the main guys did do well. You got Homer Bailey taking on Chase Anderson here. I don't really have interest in either of these pitchers. I think on a slate, I'll fade both of them, especially Bailey, of course.
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to use a pitcher with the words Homer in his name. It's a decent spot, I think. I don't hate Chase Anderson here. He's been a better pitcher, I think, than most people realize. I know he's had a couple bad outings, but I think he's a fine option. What's his price? He is
7K.
7K. Like this Reds team, I know they're have some hot bats in that lineup, but they still do strike out a decent amount. I mean, about 22%. I don't hate Chase Anderson as a cheap option.
Yeah, I mean, given the fact that I don't know. I mean, he is better against lefties. He changed his pitch and he has been better. Like he's allowing 244 a little bit this season to them, not giving up a ton of power. It's mainly been the righties that have gotten to him over the last couple seasons. That actually kind of works well, I guess, facing this Reds team, given that they are pretty heavily left-handed. I don't have interest in Reds bats, but I don't know. I just don't love Anderson here. John Gray's in that spot at 7,100. I think I like him a little bit more in tournaments.
Yeah, I agree there, and I think Hendricks is right around the same price too.
Yeah.
And I would maybe be a little more inclined to use him in this spot, but you could look at Joey Votto and Jesse Winker and Scooter in the spot if Scooter makes a lineup, but I'm not looking to target too many of these Reds bats.
No, I'm not either. I definitely don't mind some of the Milwaukee guys. Hopefully we get a lineup. A little bummer yesterday with Aguilar not being in there. Probably won't be in there tonight, but I do like the lefties here in this spot. I love Christian Yelich, Travis Shaw as always, but even guys like Lorenzo Cain. I mean, Cain, when he's on, he's running freely right now.
It is a good spot for a lot of these bats. You mentioned Shaw and Yelich. I do like lefties in this spot against Homer Bailey, 350 WOBA allowed dating back to last season, 4.6 walks per nine. So these guys can get on base just by being impatient at the plate. But even the righties here, Homer Bailey, 369 WOBA allowed last season, 38% hard contact. You could look at Domingo Santana, Lorenzo Cain, as you mentioned, Ryan Braun, Manny Pineapple, any of these guys that get in the lineup. And if for some reason Jesus Aguilar does get in the lineup, he's still only 3,200 on DraftKings, and he does actually hit right-handed pitching pretty well.
Yeah, Peanut, cheap catcher dog yesterday.
For sure. And one quick news thing, Sean Newcomb is not starting tonight anymore. Braves are promoting Mike Soroka and starting him versus the Mets.
Wow, Soroka, big-time prospect there.
Yeah, probably not in the player pool on FanDuel.
No, let's double-check.
He is not. Wait.
I think off you. SOROK.
He is not.
Yeah. DraftKings?
He is on DraftKings. He's 4K.
Interesting.
He is a very high upside guy. I would say if you want to take a shot on him in tournaments or in 4K in cash, I mean, might be worth it.
Yeah, it's not like the Mets lefties have really been crushing so far this year.
No.
But yeah, tournament guy, I probably just moves my interest off the Mets. I mean, I'll still use Cabrera. That changes. That's it.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Kansas City and Boston. Jake Junis take on Chris Sale. Chris Sale hasn't exactly been kind of paying off some price tags of late. A little bit concerned. He's not going deep into games. He's kind of hovering around that 5-6 inning mark, which is a little concerning.
It is, but this is also a Royals team that we've targeted with left-handed pitching for a while now because they do strike out a ton. I was scrolling up to get to my Brave stuff and have lost my Chris Sale part, but they are striking out, let's see, against lefties 25% of the time. So we're talking about a guy, I mean, Chris Sale, 36% strikeout rate dating back to last season. I think I'd rather still have Scherzer if I'm paying up, but Sale, excellent tournament option here.
Yeah, he's more of a pivot for me just because he is kind of at that similar price tag where, I'm just going to take Scherzer in that current form.
Yeah, exactly.
Any Kansas City bats stand out for you that you're willing to take here?
Whit Merrifield, maybe a Soler is a couple one-offs, but I don't really want to attack Sale here.
No. Boston side of things here, put up some runs last night. Bogarts, Mitch Moreland. Hamill actually did give up some home runs like that for the first time in a while. But Jake Junis has kind of been solid at kind of limiting damage, I guess. I still think he's kind of just an average righty. I've used him a couple times this year, but I don't think this is a spot you can obviously use him. Righties this year, 216 ISO off him. If guys like Mookie Betts are in the lineup, I really do like him, and obviously Ramirez and Martinez. And I will go back to the Bogarts well. He's just a completely different guy this year, probably actually healthy.
Yeah, the righties are where I'm really looking to target here. I mean, if you look at it, like his four-seam fastball, Junis is throwing it like 37.5% of the time to right-handed hitters, and they posted a 385 ISO against it. His slider, almost 40% of the time he's throwing it, they posted a 270 ISO against it. So, like, I would definitely consider guys like Mookie Betts, as you mentioned, if he makes the lineup. Hanley's a fine option, I think, in this spot. Like, even the lefties, like, I don't hate Benintendi, Moreland, JBJ, JD Martinez should actually crush in this spot. I mean, he posted a 429 ISO against four seamers last season. It's a good spot for all these Boston bats, and I think they're going to be overlooked in this game.
Yeah, I think on a 14-game slate they will as well. I like them. I like the stack here. I like Eduardo Nunez too if you need kind of a cheaper middle infield option.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Colorado, Chicago here, going to be a game that people talk about here just because it's warmer, it's more humid, wind's blowing out a little bit more than yesterday. But you do still have two, above average pitchers on the hill that can limit these offenses on both sides.
Yeah, you have a couple pitchers, both with moderate ground ball rates. I mean, you have Hendricks with, a decent strikeout, 21.2% dating back to last season, 50% ground ball rate. You have John Gray, 24% strikeout rate dating back to last season, 47% ground ball rate. Neither one of these guys, with the exception to Hendricks, to lefties, give up a bunch of fly balls. I mean, and it's still 37% fly ball rate to lefties for Hendricks dating back to last year. So, I don't know. Like, I feel like both of these pitchers in this spot could have success, and both of them are very, very cheap. I don't hate taking a shot on either one. I think I would prefer probably Hendricks here. But, like, I think you can get away with using both of these pitchers if you really want to.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Hendricks is the guy that I lean on a little bit more here, being a home guy. I do think Colorado is a bit of a weaker lineup to attack here. I don't know. I think they do get some of the lefties back, but I'm not too concerned here.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at anyone here against Hendricks, because he has struggled a little bit with lefties, 1.53 homers per nine. I mentioned the 37% hard fly ball rate to him, but still only like a 313 WOBA allowed dating back to last year. If I'm looking at anyone, it would be like Charlie Blackmon. That would maybe be it. Like, I guess what is Dahl here? He's 4K. Like, I don't know if I want to pay 4K for David Dahl in the spot, especially considering, like, I think these bats on both sides are going to be extremely popular in tournaments because of the wind. And so it's more than likely going to be a fade for me.
Yeah. I think Carr goes back. He's 3.7. I don't know. But
yeah, not like super appealing for me though.
No. Chicago side of things here against Gray. Gray's obviously the guy with some strikeout upside. There are some strikeouts, within this lineup. Projected lineup, 21%, fairly average, I guess, slightly above average from last year. But I'm not too worried. Like, you got a lot of bats that are struggling in that back half of the lineup. A couple of bats that aren't really clicking yet against right-handers. Gray definitely has some upside, some really strong stuff.
He does have a lot of upside in the spot. If I'm looking at anyone against him, it would probably be the righties, because Gray, dating back to last year, 328 WOBA allowed. Like, I know that's not a huge number, but like that's what we have to work with. So like I would maybe consider him in the spot, like the righties in the spot. Like, and if you look at it, right-handed hitters have kind of hit his slider pretty well this season. Maybe some of these guys that hit sliders decently. I'm looking like Javi Baez, Wilson Contreras.
Yeah, Contreras is a guy who stands out. Just as we talked about his slider numbers yesterday, and he was really solid.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, once again, I'm with you. Like, I think this is a game. There's going to be so many other options that kind of targets. There's a couple games that we're still going to get to with some upside.
Yeah, and it comes down to like again talking from a tournament perspective. Like in cash, I think you're fine if you want to roll these bats out because if they suck, then they're going to be probably highly owned, and you're sucking with the rest of the field and whatnot. But like in tournaments, like those prices on Hendricks and Gray, like I think you can get a huge edge if you roll one of those guys out and they actually dominate in the bats from this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. Toronto, Minnesota. You got Marco Estrada here taking on Kyle Gibson. Um, Kyle Gibson's a guy I just hate to pick on. Obviously, if you picked on him last time with the Yankees, he was no hitting them for 6, 7 innings. But this is a guy just high ground ball rates. Never tends to really blow up. Maybe gives up 3 or 4 runs at max. But this is a guy I just hate stacking against.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of stacking against him either. If you dig into his pitch stuff, like I mean, he's throwing a two-seam fastball a bunch. Not a guy that generates a ton of swing and miss. Like I mean, a slider to lefties, 33% swinging strike rates. Slider to righties, he's only throwing it like 17% of the time, but 35% swinging strike rate this season. We know the Blue Jays are a team that struggles against sliders, so if he tries to rely on that a little bit more, maybe he can rack up some strikeouts. I think he's a viable tournament option in this spot. Maybe even a cash option potentially on DraftKings as SP2, just because he's so cheap.
Yeah, I kind of like him here. Like you say, 6,500. You mentioned the slider. He's got a 72% whiff rate on that slider this year.
Yeah,
Like 26% strikeout rate. We saw some strikeouts against the Yankees. There are some strikeouts that went within this lineup. Yeah, I definitely don't mind him as an SP2 here.
I think he's a fine. Like I said, I think in cash games, I think he's a fine SP2 option.
Yeah, and I don't really like Toronto bats here against him. Like no one tremendously stands out.
I mean, you can still go with like Teoscar and Young Jarvis Solarte just because they continue to hit the ball really well. Like I never want to. I'll never say no to a dude like Teoscar Hernandez who is like a 40% hard hit rating this season, but that may be it.
I think I'm kind of more looking at some of the Twins bats here. I don't really have a ton of interest in Estrada, do you?
No, I this dude. I wrote about it in the pitch in the stacking article. Just it's literally like home runs and fly balls. That's like the only outcome this guy has at this point in the season.
Yeah, and people might look and go, oh, he only allows a 291 a little bit to lefties, but 197 ISO to lefties dating back to last year. Like I know he has reverse splits, he does allow much more to right-handers, but obviously I still like Escobar, Rosario, Kepler, but I do like Dozier here as well in this spot.
I love Brian Dozier in this spot. I mean, dating back to last season, 201 ISO, 340 WOBA to right-handed pitching, 294 ISO against changeups, which is the pitch kind of Estrada is getting hammered on this season. Miguel Sano makes the lineup. I do like him. He's going to strike out probably two of the 4 times he heads to the plate, but he's a guy that's did hit low velocity four seamers extremely well last season, and Estrada's four-seam fastball is like below 90 miles an hour. So that's pretty good numbers. Eddie Rosario, as you mentioned, again, profiles extremely well against like every pitch imaginable. And Eduardo Escobar continues to rake. Just dude continues to mash, and I like him in this spot. And even like Max Kepler, I do really like Max Kepler as a cheap outfield option tonight.
Yeah, and you mentioned Eduardo Escobar, 375 with 310 ISO against the mile per hour. He's topping out like 89.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like some Twins. I like the Twin stack here. Kind of underpriced.
Yeah, they were one of the 3 stacks that made in my article. I do love the spot for them. I know we do need to keep a little bit of a close eye on the weather there. It looks like the storms are going to roll in towards the end of that game, so just pay attention to weather.
Yep. New York and Houston, you got Jordan Montgomery taking on Justin Verlander. We saw Charlie Morton come out last night and have an awesome game. I think Verlander's in a spot where he could do that as well.
I agree. It comes down to one of those situations. I think on FanDuel, I actually really like Verlander in the spot because of the price. I mean, he's 10-8. Like that's a decent savings off of Scherzer and Sale. On DraftKings, I like him still at 11-7. I think I'd rather go with Scherzer over him on DraftKings, but in tournaments, anytime you can get a pitcher at lower ownership against the Yankees, who are always a popular stack, I think you have to at least consider him.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at anyone here. Like, I don't really like any of the Yankees bats. If I think someone's getting to Verlander, I think it's going to be one of the non-studs.
I mean, it's really, really hard to overlook someone like Didi who continues to rake this season. And if you look like, I mean, sliders look like the worst pitch that Verlander has this season. I mean, 154 ISO allowed to lefties. Yeah, Didi Gregorius maybe. That'd be about it.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like an Aaron Hicks could do well here, but yeah, I'm with. I think D would be the guy that I go with.
Yeah.
So Houston side of things here, Jordan Montgomery, a decent arm. This year, I mean, struggling a little bit, I guess. I mean, 339 well, but a lot to righties. The walks continue to be something. I don't like Montgomery here, but I'm not exactly just loading up on Houston either.
No, I'm not really either. Like, I don't really want to pick on him too much. Like his fastball has kind of been a problem, especially when you're looking at he's throwing about 22% of the time to righties. 467 ISO allowed is about a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and if you look, there are some bats in this lineup that do hit it decently. You have Yuli Gurriel, Alex Bregman, both at ISOs over 200. I don't hate those guys in this spot. I'm always in love with Marwin Gonzalez against pretty much anybody. He mashes both sides of the plate, so you can roll him out. Springer, always a threat for a home run, especially in that leadoff spot against the lefty. It seems like it happens almost every single time. But I'm not dying to get too much exposure against Montgomery.
No, I'm not either. I think an interesting one-off, though, is Alex Bregman, 4K. Has hit curveballs pretty well in his career so far. 200 ISO dating back to last year. And that's obviously a pitch that Montgomery does the line quite a bit. It's why he walks a ton of guys. That's throwing that curveball about 30% of the time.
Yeah, and Springer's another guy that has a decent amount of power against curveballs.
Yeah, so definitely some one-offs there, but not too excited.
Yep.
Chicago, St. Louis, you got James Shields on the hill taking on Michael Wacha. God, I hate Michael Wacha.
Don't we all?
Is he going to come out and pitch a good game here tonight? Like, I don't want him to because I still feel like there's a spot where he could do well. I just don't want him to because I'm not going to play him.
It's a spot where he could do well in theory. Like, I don't know if I would even consider using him, especially like there's better pitchers I think to consider in this spot. And I feel like people are going to just pick on the White Sox, and they have a lot of guys. I know they're not that great against right-handed pitching. I mean, 24% strikeout rate, but they have a lot of guys that hit right-handed pitching pretty darn well and are disciplined at the plate. Like, I don't know that I want to roll Wacha out in this spot.
No, I kind of like some Chicago contrarian bats here. Like the right-handers I like. I mean, 40% hard contact rate to righties so far for Wacha this year. Guys like Jose Abreu, Yohan Moncada is obviously from the left side, but he's just had superb power and superb upside this year. A guy like Matt Davidson or even Wellington Castillo, like these guys over 200 ISO against righties this year, like some solid bats. I really like Abreu just because, once again, 4K, a guy who just always gets overlooked. It doesn't matter what size the slate is. These guys are nice tournament options here. I think Abreu's fine in cash.
I love Abreu in this spot. I mean, we're talking about a guy with decent numbers against right-hander pitching, 364 WOBA dating back to last season, 240 ISO, just disciplined at the plate, always goes overlooked, matches up pretty darn well against Wacha and his pitch arsenal. I mean, he throws a 93-mile-an-hour four-seam fastball to righties about 47% of the time. Abreu, 255 ISO against the pitch. You have Tim Anderson at 320 ISO against the pitch last season. Decent options there. I do like the White Sox as a potentially low-owned stack because I think everyone's going to stack the other side of this game.
Yeah, I do too. And both Abreu and Davidson over 300 ISO against changeups, which Wacha's thrown 24% of the time this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely some stuff there. Don't overlook Chicago. St. Louis, you mentioned, like, everyone is going to be looking here. I do think you have to. Like, they are great cash game options. I mean, I think I might use a little bit more one-offs and GPPs and kind of go some elsewhere for lower ownership. But obviously, they're going to be in play here against Shields.
Yeah, and you're going to get, like, Matt Carpenter chalk day. And he's like 3,600 on DraftKings. It's a
that'll go well.
It's a good spot for him. Hopefully he can finally break out. I mean, this dude's been really, really bad this season. But like, I think he's in a fine spot. I absolutely love Tommy Pham. It's just a great spot. Dude just continues to rake this season against right-handed pitching, 398 WOBA, 195 ISO, stolen base upside. I mean, good spot for him. Ozuna, Fowler, all these guys are in play. They're going to be a popular stack. They didn't make it in my stacking order because I tried to go a little bit contrarian with my third stack, but I really wanted to put them in there. Interesting with Ozuna, James Shields throwing his 89-mile-an-hour four-seam fastball about a quarter of the time to right-handers. Ozuna, 512 ISO against it last season. He also matched knuckle curves, which is a pitch that James Shields is throwing another 27% of the time to righties. 667 ISO against it last year.
Yeah, I like that. And Ozuna's really cheap too, like 3,800 on DK. Really outside of Pham, everyone's really cheap. I don't mind Yadi here as well, catching option in a good spot, obviously. 198 ISO against righties this year. He has shown some more pop. Continues to be just at a nice price tag to pay behind the dish for a safe floor and some ceiling, obviously.
I agree there.
So, anyone else here?
Nah.
LA and Arizona. You got Matt Cook, which is the stud pitching in this one against Clayton Kershaw. Kershaw, man, like, is he just – what do we even do with him at this point? Do you just rule him out here? Like, I feel like that's what I'm going to be doing.
I think you take a shot in tournaments. I think that's pretty much all you can do at this point. Like, he's still priced like he's been Kershaw of old. Like, I know he's not 14K like he was last game, but he's still priced 11.9 on DraftKings. He's the third highest priced pitcher on FanDuel. Just hasn't had the upside, with the exception of one game this season, has not had the upside that we're used to him having. It should be noted that one game where he did have the upside was against the Diamondbacks. So take that for what it's worth. I think in tournaments you roll him out.
So I think this is weird, but if Arizona loads up a right-handed heavy lineup, I like him more.
I can agree with that.
I just think lefties have gotten to him. The power numbers have been there for lefties. David Peralta's day-to-day. Even the lefties in this lineup, don't tell Jared Dyson. I don't care about his 235 ISO against, lefties, I guess, this year. But, yeah, like, I'm not too worried. I like him in tournaments, but I don't know. I think I'm just going to be still going other directions here.
I completely agree. Like, it's a tournament option only, and if you're building a bunch of lineups, I would get exposure to him in one of them. But there are a couple bats that I do like little bits. Devin Marrero, just a cheap option, should be in the lineup. Could roll him. Ketel Marte, some of these cheaper bats. I don't necessarily mind taking shots on from the Arizona side of things.
What about AJ Pollock, aka Frank Thomas?
Double down Pollock, sure. I mean, he's the only one that doesn't look like he's priced down. Yeah. I guess they lowered him to 4,200.
I think you may have went to bed early last night. He hit 3.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to bed probably before the third one. I only saw the 2, but even like Goldschmidt, 4,300. Like, I don't hate the Diamondbacks as a tournament stack.
No, I mean, those ISOs obviously against lefties are still something that stands out. Nick Ahmed could even do some damage here.
Good old Nick Ahmed. I know he homered last night too.
Yeah, he's 2.9. Yeah, he almost had a cycle. He's 2.9 on DraftKings.
There you go.
Man, you really could do a little mini stack here and be contrarian.
You could.
Yeah, all right. Don't hate it. Dodgers side of things here against Matt Cook. Obviously, the loss of Corey Seager. God, it just makes his lineup look awful.
It really does. I will say, like, Matt Cook, I know he's been like freaking Clayton Kershaw for the Diamondbacks so far this season. Still, numbers suggest that he's going to struggle with righties. I mean, dating back to last season, 44% hard contact. I know that's going to come down a little bit. Only a 263 WOBA allowed, though. It's kind of weird. If he's going to be giving up that much hard contact, I know there's the humidor and all this other stuff, but he could still struggle in this park against some righties from the Dodgers side of this game.
Yeah, he very well could. The hard contact, the one positive is he's keeping a lot of stuff on the ground. Dating back to last year, 57% ground ball rate to lefties, 50% to righties. Walks a little bit of an issue, 9.1%. It's just the problem is some of these right-handed just haven't been doing much. Like Chris Taylor hasn't looked like Chris Taylor from last year, but I don't mind him at that price. Kemp is always going to be interesting for me just because it continues to hit the ball well. I think he's the guy that I have the most interest in at 4K.
Yeah, I would love, see Puig if he was in the lineup, but he's on the disabled list, so that really hurts as well. They don't have a whole lot of other guys. I mean, they're rolling out like Alex Verdugo and Max Muncy because they're running out of bodies. This Max, I know Muncy homered last night. I don't think I would use him tonight, but yeah, they're running out of bats.
Yeah, I don't have interest in Cook, but I don't have really interest in Dodgers.
No.
That sums it up here. Baltimore and LA, although Baltimore just might as well ship Machado to the Dodgers here.
There's lots of talk that it could work out. It could happen. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. But this one here, Baltimore and LA, Tropiano take on an Alex Cobb. I know the Angels are a stack that you're looking at here. The cover image is the Angels. Break it away here.
30 hits, 3 home runs, 20 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks.
And moving on.
That's Alex Cobb against over his first 3 games this season. That's not good.
No, it's really not. Absolutely getting crushed by righties. Hard percent over 40%. I like the Angels stack here. Any way they're contrarian here tonight?
I hope so.
I think, in a 14 game, like they haven't been doing well. Do we get some recency bias? Like, is anyone going to pay 5.8 for Mike Trout?
It's they could end up being a little popular. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, Mike Trout's like the only member of this team that's really that expensive. Like Upton 4.2, Pujols 3.6. Like, he's really the only one that has a high price tag. So like, if anyone's going to be contrarian, it might be Mike Trout.
I think so, but I mean, like, not a lot of people are going to be playing Pujols in this stack. I don't know, Kinsler, if like Cozart moves up and it's maybe 5th, like Ohtani's projected there, but he's day to day. I think Cozart's an interesting value as well.
Yeah, Ohtani is not going to be in the lineup. Like, they pushed his pitching start back, so it would be pretty dumb for them to roll him out tonight in the lineup because he was actually scheduled to start today as far as pitching goes, and they're now rolling Tropiano. So I don't see a scenario where he gets in the lineup.
No. So, I mean, I like those bats. Whatever kind of fills out that 5th and 6th spot, I really like them as values.
Yeah, and Albert Pujols is just a freaking lock for me today at first base. Like, Alex Cobb so far this season, 30% of the time he's throwing his knuckle curve to right-handed hitters. Albert Pujols, 462 ISO against knuckle curves last season. So Justin Upton, another guy, 294 ISO against the pitch last season. So those guys, great place to start your stack. And I highlighted Ian Kinsler. Mike Trout obviously is good at baseball. Martin Maldonado, a decent catcher option if you're not using someone like JT Realmuto or someone else.
Yeah. So this is where I don't agree with Vegas here. Implied total for Baltimore 3.7. I'm not buying it. I kind of like some Baltimore bats here, and I think they're going to put up some runs. I think this is actually a really good game stack.
I think it is as well. Like, I don't agree. Again, I don't agree with Vegas in the spot. Like, I don't know why they're giving Tropiano this much credit because he is really not that good. If you just look at his numbers, like to right-handed hitters dating back to last season, 50% hard contact. 342 WOBA allowed. Lefties, he is 388 WOBA allowed. Yeah, he could have some problems here whenever you get some of these, especially good right-handed bats in this lineup.
Yeah, like I like some Trey Mancini. Manny Machado's expensive, but like everyone else, like Adam Jones is pretty cheap. I definitely have some interest in some of the bigger guys. Peterson's been hitting, up at the top of the orders of value. The problem is he's just not that good. So I don't want to continue to use him at all if he's up there in the lineup. I think it's just kind of the main 3 of like Mancini, Machado, Jones for me.
If you look at it, like the righties, the ones that I think are the most interesting, just because Tropiano, his slider is not good. He's throwing it like 42% of the time to right-handed hitters, allowing a 300 ISO on the pitch. You look at it, Machado 211 ISO against it, Adam Jones 213 ISO against it. You look at his really low velocity 4-seam fastball, he's throwing 45% of the time. Adam Jones 413 ISO against it. good spot, I think, for specifically those guys. And then I don't hate Trey Mancini with 514 ISO against it as well.
Yeah, and Baltimore's going to be pretty much overlooked, maybe outside of like Machado.
Yeah, I think that would definitely be the case. And you can even roll out like Pedro Alvarez if they roll him in the lineup. I know Danny Valencia has gotten in there a couple times against right-handers. Even his numbers not terrible against righties, and he mashes low velocity, forcing fastballs too.
Yeah, don't mind it. Oakland Seattle next here. Felix Hernandez take on Andrew Triggs. I don't have interest in either of these arms. Do you?
No, I don't. Triggs is a guy like I he's like allowed 4 of his 5 starts have been like no more than 2 runs. But it's still one of those spots. Like the only game where he gave up a bunch of runs, I think, was against the White Sox. But it's just not a guy I really want to target in the spot against the Mariners.
Yeah, I think there's definitely spots to use Triggs. Tonight's probably just not one of those nights. Just 14 game slate against a team that's has some lefties in there. Not a big strikeout team, but Triggs is definitely not a bad arm.
He's not. It's just there's better places to attack at, like SP2 tonight.
Yeah. The problem is I don't really see anyone that I'm dying to get in as far as like Seattle bats here. Like Triggs has been some, pretty decent against lefties. Hard contact, 33%. I don't know. I'm not loving really anyone here. Like maybe a Mitch Haniger is somewhat intriguing, but outside of that, I'm not thrilled.
No, I'm not terribly thrilled with stacking either side of this. Like I would maybe look at guys that hit sliders. Well, again, it's a pitch to Triggs, not throwing a ton. I mean, 30%, almost 30% to righties, 10% to lefties. Decent amount of power allowed on the pitch. So you could look at Ryan Healy, Nelson Cruz, Robinson Cano, guys that hit sliders pretty well. Mike Zunino stands out as a guy. So does Mitch Haniger. So I guess I just named off a decent stack, actually.
But the problem is it's not surpassing like 5 or 6 other stacks.
I would put it maybe like 5th for me.
Well, all right. Yeah, I guess that's true. Oakland side things here, I don't mind some of the one-offs. Like, I think there's going to be a couple runs. I think there's a couple upside guys that are intriguing. Just look at Hernandez. I mean, going back to last year, 357 WOBA allowed to lefties, 216 ISO. The problem is, it's just, I like so many other bats over them. I do think Oakland's like a good, like if you're playing the late slate, I think they're a good team to target here.
I think they are as well. That starts with Jed Lowry, strictly because Felix is a guy that has just been really bad against lefties dating back to last season. He's 357 ISO allowed on his sinker ball. Jed Lowry, 1.154 ISO against sinkers last season. That's a pretty high number. He's also not a guy that is terrible against curveballs. I expect the numbers that he posted last year to regress a little bit more. Matt Joyce, another guy I think you can consider. Matt Olson, obviously a power lefty in that lineup against a guy that struggled against lefties. So, yeah.
Matt Joyce 3K is interesting. Like you mentioned, a lot of these guys do hit sinkers really, really well.
Yeah, they do. Like I mentioned, even like Chris Davis hits sinkers pretty darn well. I know it's the opposite side of the plate from the biggest weakness that Felix has, but he hits them pretty well. Matt Chapman hits them extremely well. Bruce Maxwell, if he's in the lineup, lefty, 455 ISO against sinkers last season, could be a solid value catching option for you.
Yeah, definitely a good like contrarian side here for the A's.
Yeah, and like I said, if Maxwell makes the lineup, he's 2,400 on DraftKings.
Yeah,
there's a near minimum salary catching option that has a decent amount of power that could help you get 2 high dollar pitchers if you need to.
Yeah. Next game here, you got Padres and Giants. Andrew Suarez taking on Tyson Ross. I don't have interest in either of these pitchers. Do you?
Tyson Ross, you mean?
Yeah. You mean the dude with the arm who can throw 150 pitches?
Yeah. Interesting spots for him here. It's a matchup against a Giants team that we do know can strike out from time to time. And if I recall correctly, he actually had a good outing against them last time. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I mean, Tyson Ross is solid. He's in a range where I think if this was maybe a smaller slate or some different pitchers, I maybe have a little interest in him. I think I'm just trying to cut down my core at this point.
Yeah, it's not a guy that you're ever going to feel extremely comfortable in using, but I still think he's a better pitcher than people think. Still generating a decent amount of ground balls. Like does have a little bit of strikeout potential. Again, a guy that relies a ton on his slider, and there's a decent amount of swinging strikes in that lineup for San Francisco against sliders. I mean, Longoria 14%, McCutchen 13%, Crawford 21%. There's some guys in that lineup that do struggle against sliders.
Yeah, there are a lot. Yeah, Ross, I mean, like you said, he's not bad. If you play back when he was healthy and with the Padres, this is a guy who had some really high upside stuff a lot of times. You always seen that a couple times this year. You were on him, immensely on that Arizona game. There isn't really anyone that stands out for the Giants side. I just don't see myself I would like Brandon Belt. I just like 10 other first basemen more.
Yeah, and I will say this: like, if you're buying into the Wrigley wind, and you're not wanting to use John Gray and those pitchers, Tyson Ross is in the same price range and is a decent pivot. So that's pretty much all I'll say about him there. I don't really want to target too many of these guys. Like I said, he is a guy that throws his slider a ton. There's not really anyone in this lineup remaining outside of Brandon Belt that hits sliders very well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really like this game, like, for any hitting standpoints. Even some of the Padres, like, even against a lefty here, like, they do have a couple of guys that hit lefties well. Obviously, like a guy like Christian Villanueva. I don't know. I just don't like this game.
No, like, Albert Suarez is not a guy that – he's not great, but he's also not terrible. I mean, 25% strikeout rate dating back to last season. Not really a guy that struggles with hard contact or home runs that much. I mean, I know righties got to him a little bit with a 1.86 homers per nine, but he allowed like 20 or 283 WOBA to him. Maybe Villanueva, Perella, Margot, if you're dying to get exposure to the Padres here, but I'm really not.
No, if you're playing a late slate, like, those are the bats that you mentioned that I'd have interest in.
Yeah.
So, home run calls, big slate. What do you got?
I'm going to go with Marcell Ozuna and Albert Pujols.
Oh, all right. I'm going to go Travis Shaw, and I'm going to go Alex Bregman.
I like it.
So, that's it for us. You can head over to DaveFantasyCafe.com, check out our tools and content, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Good luck tonight.